So right now we are going to complete our story and in the second part of Black Frontiers. In this unit, as you know, we are learning about people who are pioneers, which means that they are the first people to go to a new place, they are the first people to experience a new thing, and they are the first people to establish something. In our lesson of today, we are going to learn about the Black Frontiers, which means the first people who established the Black community in America and how they tried to blend with the American society while they suffered from slavery and they suffered from discrimination. How those people started to have their lives and to face the challenges that they have. So we learned in the first part of the lesson that America at that time was divided for two parts. One part which is in the north and the second part which is in the south. Okay, we said that in the north, the people in the north, they were good people. They refused to make any discrimination or difference between white and black people. And they said, we are all brothers. So what they do, they made the black people work. They made the black people enter the army. They made the black people part of their community, have their own houses. But in the South, on the other hand, the people in the South, they didn't believe in the same principles of the people in the North. They believed that the Black people is inferior to them and the Black people should be slaves. And they didn't agree to make them blend in the society, but rather they made them work for them. And they worked the whole day without any salary, without any wages, just for their food and just for their staying in their home. So after a while, the black people here look to the black people in the north and they heard a lot of stories that the black people actually are masters in the north. So why we are still slaves in here? Why shouldn't we be the same? Then they made a revolution and they tried to change their places from living in the south to go and to live in the north to have better condition for them and for their kids and their families. Do you think that the southern people will leave them? Huh? Will leave them?
Yeah.
No, they will not leave them.
Yes.
Of course, they will have a war. And then the war started between the North and the South. In this story of Black Frontiers, we are going to have the story of one person who tried to leave the unfair South to go to the good North. His name is Solomon, and he's telling the story from his eyes. Let's see what happened to Solomon and his family together. Now Solomon started the journey from south to the north, and he tried to go in one of the wagons that they have. Wagon is like a cart that is dragged by horses. This is a horse, and please don't mind my drawing. I'm trying here, okay? This is a horse, for example, and this is a wagon. A wagon is like a big cart that has wheels in it, and the people will sit in this place and it will be dragged by the horse. He will go from one place to another. So Solomon, he tried to go from south to north by entering one of these wagons so he can drive him to the north. But the people from the wagon and from the trains, also they have trains at that time, they refused to pick the black people. They said, you can't ride with us. We are white and you are black. So what they do, they paid money for those people to smuggle them from south to north. What happened to Solomon in the north? Did he reach the north in the first place or something happened to him? And if he reached the north, what happened next to him? Would he live a kind and a blessed life or somebody will come after him? Let's see what happened on the journey of the Black Frontiers. So if we go to our books in the page 92, Black Homesteaders.
Black homesteaders. Homesteading was not easy for black or white settlers. Rocks, grass, and trees had to be cleared before crops could be planted. A farmer needed a horse, a mule, and a plow. He needed seed to plant and food for his family until the crops were ready to harvest. Most of all, a pioneer needed a home. In regions where there were trees, pioneers built log cabins. But in Kansas and Nebraska, there was only tall grass as high as a man's shoulder. Pioneers learned that tough root systems under the grass held the dirt firmly, and sod could be cut like bricks and piled, layer upon layer, until it took the shape of a house. These homesteaders were called sodbusters, and their homes were called soddings. Sod homes could be warm and comfortable. Some were 2 stories high, with glass windows and chimneys. But in heavy rain, smaller sod houses leaked, and some families remembered being surprised by a snake slithering through a wall. In North and South Dakota, where the land was rocky and winter temperatures fell to 30 degrees below zero, early pioneers burrowed into the ground and covered themselves with an earthen roof. They brought their small. For pioneer families, homestead animals into the house in the winter, while cows and goats huddled on the roof, warming themselves on the house that was under their feet. During the first seasons in a settlement, a pioneer woman might have no stove. She dug a hole in the ground and fed the fire with weeds, adding small rocks like coals to keep in the fire's heat. Buffalo chips, the droppings of buffalo, provided the fuel. When the great animals migrated across the land, women and children gathered chips for the family's cooking fires. In the hot and dry climate of the Southwest, pioneers built homes with thick walls made of mud and straw. The mud walls, called adobe, kept the houses cool in the summer and warm in the winter. In desert regions, women learned from the Indians to brew teas out of wild grasses and to make soap and shampoo from the yucca plant. In the early days of settlement, there were few black families homesteading. For them, loneliness was part of being a pioneer. But black pioneer families held on, and in sticking it out, they made the way easier for those who came after.
Okay, my girls. Now imagine that if you go for a new place and this place wasn't habited before, like there's no people living in that place and it's only what an open area. So what would you do to live in there? Those people, they came for some places that they were not lived in before. So they had to start everything from scratch. That makes them homesteaders. What does it mean, homesteaders? They are people who have land from the government, but they have to work that land to make it a suitable land for having a community and for having a city. So they have to do everything from scratch, from cleaning that area, from all the grass and the plants, and try to establish their homes. How they start their homes? By making their homes from the substance that they have. They made their homes from mud, sod, grass, weed, everything that they have around them just to build their house. This is one example of the houses that was made since long time ago by only using the materials that they have from mud, and over the mud they put what? They put some grass to cover it and to make it warm for them in the winter. So this is how they used it. And this is an example of a wagon. This is the wagon. It's like a cart that is moving on wheels and dragged by a horse. This is how they live their life. طيب, how they eat? What they eat, they used to have animals. They have to go for hunt for buffaloes or for deer or any type of animals, and then bring it to the home. When they slaughter that animal, they have to make his meat dry because they don't have freezer, they don't have fridge. Then how they keep the meat for a long time? They have to make that meat dry in the sun, and they have to keep it in the salt to make it for a long time. Another thing also is the farms. They don't have plants, they don't have crops. From where they will bring the bread? There's no supermarket. How they will do it? They have to plant the wheat and the oat like this in the picture, and then try to take all the crops, harvest them, and then try to make bread out of that. So everything you have to make it out of scratch. Even the soap, the shampoo, you have to make it from what? From the plant. Bring the plant, try to squeeze it, take that oil out of the plant and try to make soap and shampoo for yourself to wash yourself. What about the water? They don't have waters near them. They don't have like open the sink and suddenly we'll find water, or the tub. Then suddenly we'll find water comes out of that tub. No, you have to go to the rivers. You have to dig a well, maybe in the ground, to just extract the water and to bring it to your home, to clean yourself, to clean your home, and to cook and to make all of these things. So imagine if you are living with them in that situation, how horrible and how hard it would be to live in that situation because you have to do everything by yourself and everything from scratch. And you have to have a good thinking and a creative thinking to come with ideas to help yourself to live in that place. But the women who lived in that area and in that era, they didn't have even stove or oven to make their food, to cook their food. Of course, right now we have oven, we have stove, we can make our cook on that stove, we have microwave, we have a lot of stuff we can use. But those people, they don't have technology to help them. How they started to cook their food? The woman used to dig a hole inside the ground, and in this hole, she will put some logs, some wood, some coal, and start a fire. In that fire, she will put some meat in there, she will put some vegetables, and she tried to cook the meal for her family. So everything was hard for them. Why? Because they are pioneers. They are the first families who ever started to live in that area. But now, if you go for that area, this is we are talking about Kansas, Nebraska, Texas. يعني they are now famous cities in America. But before a long time, they were only just what? An open land without any facilities around. And this is Nebraska in America now. Nebraska city. This is the city of Nebraska. Imagine. It's a whole city right now with all facilities, buildings, water, everything that you need is in there. But before 100 and 150 years ago, it was all white land without anything, nothing at all. But the people bring each other until they start a community out of a small settlement until they make it a big, big city like this. Wow, right? Right? Hello?
Yeah.
Okay, flip the page and let's go for this one.
The Exodusters. Men and women who had been slaves read in the Bible about the ancient Israelites who were brought out of bondage and delivered into freedom. Benjamin Singleton, born a slave in Tennessee, was determined that he would bring his people to free soil if it was the last thing he ever did. After the Civil War, Singleton visited Kansas, and over a period of years, he and his friends managed to buy part of a Cherokee reservation. In 1877, they advertised for homesteaders to start an all-black community there. They hoped to attract 200 families. Flyers promised that settlers who paid $1 in installments of 25 cents at a time, or otherwise as may be desired, could be part of the new community. By 1879, an exodus of black families out of the Old South began, and before long, there were 800 homesteaders in the new Kansas communities of Dunlap and Nicodemus. Benjamin Singleton said, "My people that I carried to Kansas came on our own resources. We have tried to make a people of ourselves." They were known as the Exodusters. In the early days of the town, the farmers in Nicodemus owned only 3 horses. One man plowed with a milk cow, and others broke ground with shovels and spades. White farmers saw how hard their new neighbors worked and lent the new settlers a team of oxen and a plow. Black farmers planted their first crops, and in time they prospered. By the turn of the century, there were about 8,000 black homesteaders in Nicodemus and Dunlap.
Okay, now we learned how the big communities started and the big cities started since long time ago. Now, what about the black people who used to suffer from slavery and discrimination? How they started to live in America and to be equal for the American people? One of these men and one of the pioneer stories that we have in history was the Exodusters. Exodusters are men and women, they are black. And there was a man, his name is what? Benjamin Singleton. Benjamin Singleton was a black person who was enslaved and born enslaved. And when he grew up, he owed to himself and he made an oath for himself that if it was the last thing that I will make in my life, I will bring my children and grandchildren, all the black people, to what? To freedom and to have their own community. So what he did, he started to make advertisements and flyers. Flyers is like this. It's like a paper, a big paper. He will write on it an ad, which means that he declares something for people, like come to my house and I will give you some cookies and I will give you some. For him, his ad was what? His ad was, I want to start a community for the black people in what? In Kansas. And if you come to our home and if you come to our place and you pay $1, you will be part of our community. Any black person. He told them to come to his community and to establish with him the city that he wanted. The people started to come, every person started to come and pay $1 to be part of that community. That's it, to be part of community? No. Of course, because you have to make everything from scratch. You are a pioneer, and there's nobody to make the work for you. So every one of the black members that they have, this is a picture of them at that time. He has his own job to do and his task to do. Some of them were building the houses. Some of them were planting the farms. Some of them were harvest the crops. Some of them were making the food. Some of them they were making the clothes until they make a big community and the community grab the attention of other people to come to that place. First, they have only three horses. They have only one plow. They have only limited resources. But their neighbors of the white people, when they find the black people how they are hard workers, they give them some of what? Some of the resources that they needed. Some of the animal resources and the plow resources to help them in their crops. And what will happen? I think that community will grow. Don't you think?
Yeah.
Yes, of course, because they are hard workers. If you work on anything, of course, you will see the flower of that work. Okay, who wants to read? Let's start with, let me see. We have Galia, we have Watin, we have Malak. Galia, would you like to read? Galia, can you hear me? Would you like to read?
Yeah. Okay.
96?
Some black settlers moved
Yes.
farther west to Nebraska and Oklahoma, where they built three new black communities: Taft, Langston, and Bloyd. George Washington Blush went all the way to Oregon Territory, where he introduced the first mower and repair into the area around Puget Sound. All of the black communities, however, Nicodemus and Dunlap remained the most famous. Each year they celebrated the 4th of July, and they had their own special holiday, Impactation Day, on July 31 and August 1st. A square mile of land was set aside as a carnival fairground. There were boxing matches and basketball.
Baseball, not basketball. Okay,
Yes.
excellent job. So this is a part of the people that were in the black community. He's telling you that those black people, they started their community and it grew very fast, that um, they have everything for their own. They have their own farms, their own horses, their own animals, their own homes. And after a while, they have even their own teams of baseball and their own teams of what? Of people to have their own community as there. This is some of the pictures from the olden times of the black communities and the pioneers.
Games. In
Okay,
1900,
let's complete with Malak. Malak, in 1907,
In 1907, the town formed one of the nation's first black baseball teams, the Nicodemus Blues.
the Nicodemus Blues.
The
Was played.
Nicodemus Blues. The Blues played black teams as far away as Texas,
Nevada.
Nevada and Louisiana. Satchel Page, one of the greatest black pitchers in American baseball history, played ball in Nicodemus. In 1976, Nicodemus was designated national designated a national history landmark. The town's history is being recorded and buildings restored. It marks the proud legacy of Black homesteaders of America.
Excellent job, ya Malak. Excellent job, ya Dalia. So your reading is awesome. Now the family that started, which is, or the community that started, which is Nicodemus, they were a small community, and as I told you, they grow to grab more people and to attract more people. After a while, they have their own baseball team. And guess what? That baseball team was very famous around America, that one of the best pitchers is Satchel Paige, which is one of the best pitchers of the baseball team ever. Okay, he was one of these people who lived in that place. And then after a while, this place was very famous for all America because of that person that was pioneer in baseball. And they admitted the place of Nicodemus and make it part of their town, and they put it in the history of America, of the Black people of America. Flip the page and let's start with Wateen. Wateen, are you there?
Yes.
Okay. The Buffalo Soldiers. During
the Civil War, nearly 180,000 Black troops fought with the Union Army against the Confederacy, and more than 33,000 gave their lives to end slavery. After the war, General Ulysses S. Grant ordered Generals Philip Sheridan and William Tecumseh Sherman to organize regiment of Black slavery. These were designated the 9th and 10th Cavalry, each containing about 1,000 men under the command of white commissioned officers. Colonel Edward Hatch for the 9th and Colonel Benjamin Grayson for the 10th. Two Black regiments of the infantry were organized, the 24th and the 25th. George Armstrong Custer refused to command Black troops, but others accepted their task gladly. Black troops who had been farmers, cooks, carpenters, and blacksmiths came from all parts of the country. The army paid them $13 a month plus ration and sent them to the most desolated and dangerous frontier outposts, where they served under the harshest conditions with the oldest equipment. They fought Indian tribes. Few soldiers wished to encounter the Shawnee, Comanche, Kiowa, Apache, Ati, and Sioux.
excellent job. Just a second, my girls. Let's go for the next one and have this.
It was the Indians who gave the Black troops the name Buffalo Soldiers because their hair resembled the shaggy coats of the buffalo. The buffalo was sacred to the Indians, and the men of the 9th and 10th Cavalry and the 24th and 25th Infantry accepted the name as a badge of honor, and the buffalo became a prominent part of their regimental crest. 13 men of the Buffalo Soldiers won the highest military award of the nation, the Congressional Medal of Honor.
Okay. Just a minute. Just a minute. In this part, he's saying to you that even the Black people, they were not only established their own communities and their own settlement, but they also started their own work in the army and being a soldier in the Army of America, of American history. And we have a lot of soldiers and lieutenants and commissioned are working in what? In the American Army. So this is how they blend. They started to have their own work, and at the same time, they started to blend with other people to be part of the community.
When all black regiments were disbanded after World War II, almost 100 years after they were organized, the 10th Cavalry became the 510th Tank Battalion. But memories of frontier days were strong, and the 510th was redesignated the 10th Cavalry in 1958 and stationed at Fort Knox, Kentucky. A bronze statue in memory of the 9th and 10th Cavalry and the 24th and 25th Infantry was dedicated in 1992 at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, to commemorate the courage of the Buffalo Soldiers and mark their place in American military history. The Buffalo Soldiers helped to bring law and order to regions where ranchers fought with farmers, where Indian tribes warred with each other and with settlers, and where bandits threatened to overrun small towns. On rare occasions, settlers acknowledged their great debt to the black troops. When the 25th was ordered to duty in the Spanish-American War, the people of Missoula, Montana postponed Easter church services so that they could line up along the town's main street and wave goodbye to the black troops who had become their protectors and friends. Over the years, that strange name, Buffalo Soldiers, became a prized possession of those black troops who left a legacy of courageous service in U.S. military history. Conclusion. It would be wrong to suggest that the frontier was without prejudice. It had its share of violence and racial injustice. As settlements grew into cities, Jim Crow segregation laws confronted black settlers. But on those lonely, dangerous, and beautiful lands we call the frontier, black pioneers built new lives. Born into slavery, African Americans had the same dreams of freedom and independence as did all other Americans. Given the chance, they proved time and again that they possessed skills, initiative, and courage. West of the Mississippi, between 1850 and 1900, there were some 10,000 African American Exodusters, homesteaders, and sodbusters. There were also 4,000 miners, 8,000 wranglers and rodeo riders, and some 5,000 Buffalo Soldiers. According to some historians, there were some 80,000 African Americans doing whatever else the frontier demanded. They were trappers and mountain men, hotel keepers and scouts. They were businessmen and women, teachers and nurses. And they were cowboys. From the Chisholm Trail to Hollywood, the American cowboy is a hero who walks tall. It is important to remember then that some of America's best cowboys and rodeo riders were black, and that some of our bravest pioneers were African Americans who lived and worked on America's western frontiers.
Okay, my girls, this is the end of the lesson. By the end, he's saying that those black people, they didn't only participate in being a part of the community and making their own community, but they are part also of the army that also fight in the Civil War. And not only in the army of the Civil War, also they were part of the community of being part of the soldiers who defended and protected both white people and black people. They protected them from the thieves, from the other troops of the Indians, or from other people who tried to attack uh, all type of people, white and black. So that's why after more than 100 years, the American history, they put the name of the Buffalo Soldiers, which is a very known black group of the army. They put it in the American history and they honored their name until now because they participated in protecting the whole area and the whole community. So being a part of the Black Frontiers is not an easy job to do, but they established the blessed and the kind life for their children and their grandchildren that now in America you can go in everywhere and you can live that the American, the white and the black, they are living together in a harmony and in a better condition. And this is the end of our lesson. If you want to learn more, you can also make a search about the Black Frontiers in the YouTube, and you will watch more videos about them and more pictures of these, like this soldier and like this group of soldiers of Buffalo. Okay, my girls, do you have any question at the end?
No, thank you, Miss.
Was it interested for you to learn about them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm so glad that you liked it. And inshallah, I will see you tomorrow in the writing class. Until then, stay safe and be okay. Bye bye.
Bye,
Bye.
Miss.